A country girl with a big dream. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a farm in the American countryside. Christmas trees are everywhere, the smell of winter is in the air, and a little girl with golden curls is running through the pine trees. That little girl was Taylor Allison Swift, born on December 13, 1989 in Reading, Pennsylvania. Ever since she was a little girl while other children were playing with dolls, Taylor showed that she had a different kind of spark. She liked to create stories, turn feelings into words, and sing for whoever would listen, even if it was just her family and the farm cats. But what makes someone have such a big dream? For Taylor, it all started with music. She grew up listening to the greats of country music like Shania Twain and the Chicks, and was fascinated by the way their lyrics told stories. They were songs that spoke of love, pain, and overcoming obstacles, and Taylor wanted more than anything to be a part of that world. Imagine a little girl with bright eyes, holding a hairbrush like a microphone, singing in front of the mirror and daydreaming. That was Taylor. And she didn't just dream. She knew she was going to make it. If you have a dream, go for it. No one is going to do it for you. And this phrase defines exactly what Taylor did. That was just the beginning of her journey. Have you ever wondered how far a dream can take someone? Stay here because this story is just beginning. But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Activate the bell so you don't miss any updates. Like and share with your friends. Take the opportunity to leave your comment at the end of the video, because your opinion is very important to the channel. The first guitar and the first songs. Now imagine this same girl full of dreams, but with an enormous need to transform everything she felt into music. But there was one small problem. She still didn't know how to play an instrument. How can she tell her stories without a melody? It was then that, at the age of 12, Taylor Swift had an encounter that would change her life forever. A computer technician who worked at her house realized that this girl had something special and decided to teach her 3 chords on the guitar. 3 simple chords. But for Taylor, that was all she needed. He grabbed that guitar like it was a treasure and never stopped. That same day, she composed her first song, Lucky You. A perfect name because at that moment she realized that luck didn't come by chance. It came from effort, passion, and the desire to learn. Now close your eyes and try to imagine a girl sitting on the edge of her bed, strumming a guitar that seemed huge for her little hands, scribbling lyrics in a notebook full of hearts drawn next to the words. Each song she created was like a page in her diary, full of emotions and experiences. While other children dreamed of fleeting things, Taylor knew exactly what she wanted to be: a storyteller through music. But the farm where she grew up was too small for her dream. And so she and her family made a bold decision. It was time to take a bigger step. But was the world ready for a little country girl with a guitar and a dream? Moving to Nashville and getting her first record deal. Now imagine a determined 14-year-old girl sitting in the backseat of her family's car as the road stretched out before her. Taylor Swift was leaving her hometown, her house with the Christmas trees, her school friends, everything for one reason: to follow her dream in the capital of country music, Nashville. For many people this would be scary. But for Taylor, it was an adventure. She had visited Nashville before with her mother, taking homemade CDs to record companies in the hopes of getting a break. But the answer she always got was the same: come back when you're older. But Taylor didn't want to wait. She knew the time was right. So her family moved to Tennessee, giving her the opportunity to be in the center of the music industry. While other girls her age were preoccupied with school dances, Taylor was writing songs and chasing her chances. And the big turning point came when she was discovered while singing at the Bluebird Cafe, a small bar in Nashville where great talent is found. An executive at Big Machine Records named Scott Borchetta saw in her something no one else did: a rising star. Soon after, Taylor Swift became the youngest artist to sign a contract with Sony/ATV Music Publishing. But she didn't just want to write songs for other people, she wanted to sing her own stories. And that's when her journey as a singer truly began. Now close your eyes for a moment and imagine a little girl holding a contract in her hands with a smile on her lips and a sparkle in her eyes, knowing that this was the beginning of something big. But was the world ready for the girl with the guitar? Hold that question because the best is yet to come. The debut with Tim McGraw and the first album. Now imagine a 16-year-old girl full of dreams, walking into a big recording studio. The smell of the new equipment, the glow of the flashing red lights, the giant headphones covering her ears. Taylor Swift was about to record her first professional song. After years of writing in her notebook, practicing on the guitar and fighting for an opportunity, the time had finally come. And what was the first song the world would hear from her? Tim McGraw, a song about memories, love and goodbyes. And why that name? Well, Taylor wrote this song thinking about an ex-boyfriend she knew would one day go away. And she wanted him to remember her every time he heard a song by country singer Tim McGraw. The release happened in June 2006, and suddenly the curly-haired girl from a farm was being played on radios across the country. And it didn't stop there. A few months later, Taylor released her first album, titled Taylor Swift. The album was a true portrait of her teenage years, full of stories about unrequited love, insecurities and hopes. Songs like Teardrops on My Guitar, Our Song, and Picture to Burn quickly won over young audiences, who identified with every word. Now imagine a young girl stepping onto a big stage for the first time, holding her guitar, while thousands of people sing along to her lyrics. That little girl who once dreamed on the Christmas tree farm was now becoming a real star. But that was just the beginning. The success of her first album was just a small step towards something much bigger. Taylor didn't want to be just a country singer, she wanted to make history. And in the next chapter, comes the explosion of success that changed everything. You won't want to miss it. The explosive success of Fearless, and the consecration in country music. Now imagine that same girl just 2 years later but already feeling like the whole world was about to hear her for real. Taylor Swift was no longer just a young country music hopeful. She was about to become a phenomenon. In 2008, at the age of 18, Taylor released Fearless, the album that would change her life forever. But what made this album so special? Well, first, the songs. This album brought some of the biggest hits of Taylor's career, like Love Story, a song inspired by Romeo and Juliet, but with a happy ending. The audience fell in love. Who has never experienced forbidden love and wished that everything would work out in the end? Another big hit was You Belong With Me, an anthem for everyone who has ever felt ignored or left out in a relationship. The song became a hit. The video showed Taylor wearing glasses as the invisible girl and her other self as the popular girl. Something everyone has experienced in some way. But that wasn't all. Fearless broke records. It was the best-selling album of 2009. Taylor became the youngest country singer to reach the top of the pop charts, and to top it all off, she also won an award that few people in the world get, the Grammy for Album of the Year. Now close your eyes and imagine Taylor, dressed in a beautiful, sparkly dress, walking up to the stage at the biggest music awards show, holding the Grammy in her hands, almost in disbelief at what was happening. She looks at the audience, takes a deep breath and says, "I write songs in my bedroom and now I'm here." It proves that if you have a dream and work hard, anything can happen. The world has surrendered to Taylor Swift, but along with fame came challenges. The next chapter of her story would bring one of the most remarkable and embarrassing moments of her career. And if you think the road to the top is easy, just wait until you see what happens in the next episode of this story. The infamous moment with Kanye West at the VMA. Now imagine, it's September 13, 2009 and Taylor Swift, just 19 years old, is beaming. She's sitting in the front row at the MTV Video Music Awards, VMA, one of the most important awards shows in the music industry. Her name is announced as the winner of Best Female Video for the clip, You Belong With Me. Taylor goes on stage, excited, holding her first trophy at the VMA. For her, that meant everything, an acknowledgement that her songs were touching millions of hearts. She takes the microphone, smiles and begins her acceptance speech. But suddenly something unexpected happens. Kanye West, one of the biggest rappers in the world, comes on stage and interrupts Taylor in the middle of her speech. He grabs the microphone from her hand and says, loud and clear, "Taylor, I'm so happy for you and I'm going to let you finish, but Beyoncé had one of the best videos of all time." The audience is shocked. Taylor is too. She doesn't know what to do. She grabs the microphone back, but the audience is already reacting with boos. Some for Kanye, others because the whole situation was unbelievable. Taylor leaves the stage without being able to finish her speech. She goes back to her seat, not knowing whether to cry or pretend nothing happened. For a young artist who had just gained worldwide recognition, that was one of the most humiliating moments of her career. But do you know what happened next? Beyoncé, the big star mentioned by Kanye, showed a true act of generosity. When she won Best Video of the Year, she called Taylor back on stage and gave her the space to finish her speech. It was a moment of solidarity and empathy that helped turn a bitter situation into something inspiring. But that moment would not be forgotten so easily. The episode with Kanye West not only shook up Taylor's career, but also started a drama that would last for years. So, how would you react if one of the biggest artists in the world interrupted you live? Taylor still had a lot to face and her story was far from over. Next, the album that proved she didn't need anyone to tell her stories. Just herself and a guitar. Speak Now, and her assertion as a songwriter. Now imagine a young artist fresh out of one of the most humiliating moments of her career. Anyone could get shaken, hide, avoid the spotlight. But Taylor Swift was no ordinary person. Instead of letting that situation define her path, she did what she always did best. She turned it into music. That's how Speak Now, her third album, released in 2010, was born. But this album was different. Taylor had something to prove, that she didn't need anyone else to tell her stories. And guess what she did? She wrote each of her songs completely by herself. No help from other songwriters, no co-writers. Just her guitar and her emotions. Now imagine a 20-year-old girl sitting on her bedroom floor, scribbling lyrics in her notebook while holding her guitar. She was pouring her soul into songs that spoke of love, regrets, dreams, and even revenge. The result? An album full of iconic anthems such as Mine, a song about young love and the challenges of growing up together. Back to December, a heartfelt apology to an ex-boyfriend, showing a more vulnerable side of Taylor. The Story of Us, a song about finding someone special again but realizing that everything has changed. Dear John, a devastating ballad, supposedly about her relationship with singer John Mayer, full of sharp innuendos. Mean, a direct response to everyone who tried to put her down, including critics from the media and perhaps even Kanye West. But beyond the songs, Speak Now was a milestone in Taylor's career because it proved that she was a complete artist. She wasn't just a country singer who wrote about teenage romances, she was a talented songwriter, a natural storyteller, and a woman who knew how to stand up for herself with her words. The album was an absolute success, selling more than 1 million copies in its first week and earning Taylor her first world tour, where she enchanted fans with theatrical and magical shows, like a true fairy tale. But as Taylor conquered the world with Speak Now, something inside her began to change. She wanted more. She wanted to reinvent herself. She wanted to take risks. And that's exactly what she did in the next chapter of her story. A turn that would shock the music world. Ready to see how Taylor left country behind and threw herself into pop? The next chapter is one of the most iconic of her career. The turn to pop with Red. Now imagine that you spent years being known for something, your identity, your style, what people expect from you. But deep down you feel like you can be more. That's exactly what happened to Taylor Swift. After the huge success of Speak Now, Taylor realized that she didn't want to be just a country singer. Her musical influences were expanding, her songwriting was becoming bolder, and she wanted to explore new sounds. That's how Red was born, her fourth album, released in 2012. But why this name? Taylor explained that for her, love and intense emotions were like the color red, bright, passionate, but also dangerous and uncontrollable. And that's exactly what this album brought. A whirlwind of feelings. Now close your eyes and imagine an artist entering a studio with a completely new idea. For the first time, Taylor decided to work with pop producers and create songs that mixed country, rock, pop, and even electronica. It was a risky move, but one that would change her career forever. And then came the hits. We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together. A fun and full of attitude song about a yo-yo relationship. It was her first single to reach the top of the Billboard Hot 100 and the song that officially put her in the pop world. I Knew You Were Trouble. Here, Taylor shocked everyone by incorporating electronic beats, the famous dubstep, into a song about the kind of love that you know is going to fail, but you live it anyway. All Too Well. Considered by many to be the best song of Taylor's career, this emotional and detailed ballad tells the story of a love that left deep marks. The song became a true anthem among fans. 22. An anthem for youth and freedom, celebrating the ups and downs of life at 22. Everything Has Changed. A sweet and melancholic duet with Ed Sheeran, one of her great friends in the industry. With Red, Taylor still maintained some country roots but was trying something bigger, bolder. The album was one of the best-selling albums of 2012 and solidified her status as one of the most powerful artists in music. Now, imagine what was going through Taylor's mind at that moment. If Red was such a genre-bending hit, what would happen if she went full-on pop? She knew she was ready for a new challenge. So she made a radical decision, to leave country behind and dive headfirst into pop. And that's how the album that would change the world of pop music was born. In the next chapter, a new haircut, a change of style, and a reinvention that would transform her into the biggest star in the world. Get ready for 1989. The domination of pop with 1989. Now, imagine an artist at the height of her career with millions of fans around the world, several awards, and a name already consolidated in the music industry. Anyone could settle down and continue in the same direction, but Taylor Swift is not just any artist. She no longer wanted to just test pop. She wanted to become the biggest pop star on the planet. And that's how 1989 was born, her fifth studio album, released in 2014. The name was a reference to her birth year, but also to the spirit of the 80s, a decade full of synthesizers, danceable melodies, and bold visuals. This would be the album that would redefine her career forever. But this transformation was not only musical. It was also visual and conceptual. Taylor cut her long, curly hair, adopting a modern bob. Her image of a country girl with boots and flowery dresses gave way to an urban style, with sophisticated clothes, bright red lipstick, and a new attitude. Now, imagine Taylor Swift in the studio, sitting alongside legendary producers like Max Martin and Jack Antonoff, masterminding a new era. She knew she was on to something big. And when the album came out, it was a phenomenon. Let's talk about the hits. Shake It Off. The first single and one of the biggest hits of her career. A song about ignoring the critics and just keeping on dancing. It was a hit on the charts and became a true anthem of empowerment. Blank Space. A song that plays on the image that the media created of Taylor as the girl who only writes about ex-boyfriends. With a cinematic music video and an addictive melody, it became one of the biggest hits in pop history. Style. A sophisticated and sensual hit that quickly won over the public. Bad Blood. A song about betrayal and rivalry which got a music video starring a cast full of celebrities. Wildest Dreams. A moving cinematic ballad inspired by intense, fleeting romances. And the results. 1989 sold over 1 million copies in its first week, a rare feat in the digital age. The album dominated the charts and was critically acclaimed, showing that Taylor was no longer just a former country singer playing pop. She was now the biggest pop star in the world. And to seal this glorious phase, Taylor won for the second time the Grammy for Album of the Year, something very few artists achieve. Now think about it. Taylor Swift, who started out as a little girl playing guitar on a farm in Pennsylvania, was now at the top of the music world. But as always, success does not come without challenges. And in the next chapter, the shadow of Kanye West comes back to haunt her. A controversy, a public betrayal, and a career turnaround that would take Taylor to her darkest phase. Get ready for Reputation. Taylor Swift's boldest, most vengeful era yet. The dark phase and redemption with Reputation. Now imagine being on top of the world, living the peak of your career, achieving everything you ever dreamed of. And suddenly seeing it all fall apart in a matter of months. That's exactly what happened to Taylor Swift in 2016. What started as a small controversy with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian turned into one of the biggest scandals in pop culture. It all started when Kanye West released the song Famous, where he said in the lyrics, "I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. But I made that BH famous." Taylor was shocked. To her, it was offensive and disrespectful. But Kanye and Kim Kardashian claimed that Taylor had approved the lyrics before it was released. To make matters worse, Kim released an edited video of a phone call between Kanye and Taylor, which led the public to believe that Taylor was lying. The internet turned against her. The hashtag Taylor Swift is over party became a worldwide trend, and millions of people began attacking her on social media. They called her fake, manipulative, and deceitful. It was a devastating blow. And what did Taylor do? She disappeared. For an entire year, Taylor disappeared from the spotlight. No interviews, no social media posts, no public appearances. For a star used to being in the spotlight, this was a deafening silence. But just when everyone thought she was defeated, she came back, completely transformed. In 2017, Taylor released Reputation, a dark, vengeful, and full of attitude album. This was no longer the innocent girl from Love Story. This was a Taylor Swift reborn from the ashes. And the singles spoke for themselves. Look What You Made Me Do, a revenge anthem. In the video, Taylor buries her old selves and assumes a new, bolder identity. Ready for it? A powerful and mysterious song, showing that Taylor was no longer the same. Endgame, an explosive hit with Ed Sheeran and Future, proving that Taylor dominated any musical genre. Delicate, a more vulnerable side of the album, showing that despite the armor, Taylor still had deep feelings. New Year's Day, the song that showed that despite all the darkness, love still mattered. Reputation was an absolute success, selling more than 1.2 million copies in its first week. Taylor showed that even when knocked down, she knew how to get back up stronger than ever. And when everyone thought Taylor would be stuck in this vengeful persona, she surprised the world once again. Because after the storm came a sweeter, lighter phase. The era of love. Get ready for the next chapter, Lover. The colorful, romantic, and independent Taylor Swift. The colorful phase of Lover and artistic freedom. Now imagine a dark sky full of storm clouds. And suddenly the sun begins to shine, spreading colors everywhere. That was exactly the feeling that Taylor Swift conveyed when in 2019 she returned completely different from what we saw in Reputation. If before Taylor was surrounded by mystery, shadows, and revenge, now she wanted to show her lighter, more romantic, happier side. And so was born Lover, her 7th studio album, released in August 2019. This was the first album that Taylor released under her own control, after ending her contract with her former record label. Now she had total freedom over her music. But Lover wasn't just an album. It was a celebration of love, joy, and overcoming obstacles. The very concept of the album hinted at that. Pastels, glitter, hearts, butterflies. It was as if Taylor was being reborn again, but this time into a much more colorful world. Now imagine Taylor in the studio after years of turmoil and controversy, deciding it was time to show who she really was. And then came the hits. Me. An upbeat and fun single featuring Brendan Urie that showed Taylor leaving the darkness behind and embracing joy. You Need to Calm Down. An anthem against hate and in support of the LGBTQ+ community, reinforcing the message that everyone deserves respect. Lover. One of the most romantic songs of her career, with a nostalgic and melodic sound that captured the essence of true love. The Archer. An introspective song showing that despite the new phase, Taylor still carried some insecurities within herself. Cornelia Street. An emotional ballad about memories and the places that mark a relationship. But beyond the songs, Lover represented something much bigger in Taylor's life. The fight for control of her own art. That's because in 2019, Taylor discovered that her former label, Big Machine Records, had sold the rights to her early albums to Scooter Braun, a manager with whom she had a complicated history. This meant that Taylor no longer owned her old music. Her solution? A bold and historic move, re-recording all of her old albums to reclaim what was hers. And that's how the iconic Taylor's Version movement was born, where she began re-releasing her albums under her own label, ensuring that this time her music belonged to her and no one else. Now close your eyes and imagine Taylor, after so many battles, holding her new album in her hands, knowing that for the first time in her career, she fully owned her art. Lover wasn't just an album, it was a symbol of freedom. But little did she know that soon after, the entire world would enter a difficult phase, the pandemic. And this new reality would make Taylor create something completely unexpected. In the next chapter, the indie revolution with Folklore and Evermore. The albums that showed a side of Taylor Swift that no one imagined. The battle for the rights to her songs and the re-recordings. Now imagine that you spent years building something with your own hands, putting your heart and soul into it, only to see someone else take possession of what is yours. That's exactly what happened to Taylor Swift in 2019. After years of dedication and success, Taylor discovered that her former record label, Big Machine Records, had sold the rights to all of her early albums to Scooter Braun, a music industry businessman who already had a history of disagreements with her. But what did that mean? It meant that Taylor didn't own her own songs. Everything she wrote, everything she sang since her teens now belonged to someone else, who could profit from her work without her having any control over it. For any artist, this would be devastating enough. But Taylor was not one to accept injustice. She was not going to let anyone steal her art. So she made a revolutionary decision: to re-record all of her old albums and release her own versions, called Taylor's Version. This move would change the history of the music industry forever. Now imagine Taylor sitting in the studio again, taking the songs she wrote years ago and breathing new life into them, but now under her own control. And that was how the Taylor's Version era began. Fearless, Taylor's Version, 2021. The first re-recorded album which brought back hits like Love Story and You Belong With Me, as well as new songs that had never been released before. Red, Taylor's Version, 2021. One of the most anticipated albums, which included the iconic All Too Well 10-minute version, an extended version of her most acclaimed song, Speak Now, Taylor's Version, 2023. Revisiting her most original album, including previously unreleased songs that revealed even more of her youth. 1989, Taylor's Version, 2023. The album that marked her transition to pop came back even stronger and with new tracks from the vault that fans had never heard before. Each re-recording was an absolute success, breaking records and proving that her fans were with her in this fight. And the best part? This sent a clear message to the entire industry. Artists should own their own work. Now close your eyes and imagine. A woman who started her career as a young dreamer, now in charge of her own story, defeating those who tried to bring her down. But Taylor still had much more to show. And it was during one of the most difficult periods in the world, the pandemic, that she surprised everyone again with something totally unexpected. In the next chapter, the albums Folklore and Evermore. A new Taylor, a new sound and proof that she could do anything. The indie revolution with Folklore and Evermore. Now imagine the whole world in silence. The streets empty, the shows cancelled, the stages dark. The year was 2020, and the pandemic had interrupted everyone's lives. Taylor Swift, accustomed to grand tours and crowds singing her songs, found herself stuck at home like the rest of the world. But while many thought she would stay put, Taylor was secretly creating something magical. And then, without warning, on July 24, 2020, she released Folklore, an album completely different from anything she had done before. Her signature pop hits full of sparkle and catchy beats gave way to melancholic songs, detailed stories and soft melodies, inspired by folk and alternative music. It was as if Taylor had invited all her fans to a cabin in the woods, where she would whisper stories by the fire. And it was an absolute success. Now imagine Taylor sitting in her living room, writing with Aaron Dessner, Jack Antonoff and Justin Vernon, creating music in a whole new way. And then the hits came. Cardigan, a sweet and nostalgic song, full of metaphors and feelings of loss and love. The One, a mature look at a love that could have been but wasn't. Exile, a moving duet with Bon Iver filled with pain and goodbye. August, a song that captured the essence of a summer full of memories and secrets. The Last Great American Dynasty, a true story about the former owner of her Rhode Island mansion, brilliantly told. And then came the Grammys ***. Folklore, won Album of the Year, making Taylor the first woman in history to win that category 3 times. But just when everyone thought Taylor was going to rest, she did it again. 5 months later, out of nowhere, Taylor released Evermore, a sister album to Folklore. If Folklore was a melancholic fairy tale, Evermore was a mysterious storybook with even darker and more engaging songs. And the highlights: Willow, a charming ballad about following someone you love without looking back. Champagne Problems, a narrative about a failed marriage proposal. Tolerate It, a song about unrequited love with a pain that cuts like a knife. No Body, No Crime, a dark and mysterious story featuring the band Haim. Evermore, a collaboration with Bon Iver that closes the album with an almost spiritual touch. Now imagine Taylor sitting at home, creating 2 of the most acclaimed albums of her career in total secrecy. And do you know what was the biggest lesson from this phase? She didn't need big productions or marketing strategies to be successful. She just needed her music and her stories. But Taylor wouldn't stop there. She was ready to return to big productions, and this time with a completely new concept. In the next chapter, Midnights, the return of pop, the broken records and the biggest tour of her career. The Midnights phenomenon and its global impact. Now imagine a clock striking midnight. The world is silent, everyone is asleep, except Taylor Swift. Because that's when the best stories are born. After the mysterious tales of folklore and evermore, Taylor felt it was time to return to pop. But not just any pop. This time she wanted to create an album inspired by sleepless nights, the thoughts that only appear when we are alone, the deepest confessions of our minds. And so, on October 21, 2022, she released Midnights, her 10th studio album. Now imagine, Taylor announcing the album by surprise, describing it as the stories of 13 sleepless nights spread across her life. An intriguing concept and completely different from anything she had done before. And as always, Taylor broke records as soon as the album was released. Midnights became the most played album in a single day on Spotify, surpassing 186 million streams. Taylor became the first artist in history to occupy the entire top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 at the same time. The album sold over 1 million copies in its first week, a rare feat in the streaming era. And of course the iconic hits soon followed. Anti-Hero, one of Taylor's most introspective songs, where she admits her insecurities and fears. With the viral chorus, "It's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me," the song became an instant anthem. Bejeweled, a fun song about regaining self-esteem and shining bright like a diamond. Lavender Haze, a romantic and ethereal hit, inspired by love and the need to escape external opinions. Maroon, one of the most emotional tracks, where Taylor describes a love story that wears thin over time. Karma, an addictive pop anthem about how fate always finds a way to give each person the right things. And then when everyone thought Taylor had already given it all away, she took the world by surprise again and released an extended version of the album, the Midnights 3 a.m. edition, with 7 extra songs. But do you know what really cemented this phase as the greatest of Taylor's career? The Eras Tour. Now imagine, Taylor Swift on the biggest stage of her life, revisiting all the eras of her career in a single show. The tour became the biggest and most profitable in history, selling tickets in seconds and causing a true worldwide commotion. Taylor was no longer just a pop singer, she was an event, a cultural phenomenon, a living icon. But as always, Taylor is not content to stop. What comes next? What surprises are still to come? In the next chapter, the legacy of Taylor Swift, how a small-town girl became the biggest artist in the world. The legacy of Taylor Swift, from a dreamer to the biggest artist in the world. Now close your eyes and go back in time. Think back to that little curly-haired girl who grew up on a Christmas tree farm in Pennsylvania, holding a guitar and dreaming of telling her stories to the world. Now open your eyes and see the woman Taylor Swift has become. The only artist in history to win 3 Grammys for Album of the Year. The owner of the highest-grossing tour of all time. The most streamed artist on Spotify. The woman who defied the industry, reclaimed her rights, and redefined what it means to be an independent artist. Taylor Swift is not just a singer. She is a force of nature. A storyteller, a visionary, a woman who has turned pain into music, defeat into triumph, and criticism into fuel for even greater growth. Her fans, the Swifties, follow every era, every twist, every new release, because they know that Taylor never delivers less than the unexpected. Now the question that remains is, what's next? If there's one thing we've learned from Taylor, it's that she always has something up her sleeve. More re-recordings? A new surprise album? A project that no one saw coming? The only certainty is that Taylor Swift never stops. And if you want to keep following this incredible journey, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and leave your like. Here you can stay up to date with all the news from the world of celebrities, curiosities and analyses of the biggest stars on the planet. And now tell me, what was your favorite era of Taylor's? Leave it here in the comments and let's talk. See you in the next video.